Hello, welcome to this tropical update. So we have a lot going on there. We have tropical storm Patty, subtropical storm Patty near the Azores. We have this area of investigations 90 and 90% chance, right? This will likely become a depression soon or even a storm. So let's see. Showers and thunderstorms are showing signs of organization in association for low pressure system or the South Central Caribbean Sea. This system is expected to become a tropical depression during the next day or two as it moves generally northward towards Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Cuba. Interest in those locations should monitor closely the progress of the system, as tropical storm watches or warnings could be required later today or tonight. So they will for sure put this as a potential tropical cyclone soon, and that there'll be like some tropical storm watches in Jamaica, in the Cayman Islands, and even eastern Cuba. So please be careful there. Regardless of development, locally heavy rainfall is possible across Jamaica, Hispaniola, Cuba during the next few days. So an Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft is currently investigating the system. So yeah, for me the main threat is the rainfall from the, especially in Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and those areas. And we have two more areas of investigation, the yellow. So there's two, these small ones, literally 0% chance because this will get absorbed into that one. So they still say 10% here because it's not updated, but it's now at 0%. And we have this third area now at 20%. So let's see. An area of disturbed weather is expected to develop near the northern Leeward Islands around the middle of next week. Some slow development of the system is possible after that time, and it moves generally westward over the southwestern Atlantic. So be aware, there's still a chance of some development just north of the Greater Antilles in the next few days. So let's see. There's the Eastern Pacific. There's the remnants of Tropical Storm Lane that are dissipating, and shows 60% chance with another area in the middle of the Pacific. So be aware there, and nothing else on the horizon. So let's see, this is subtropical storm Patty. Most of the rain area has moved away from the Azores, but still some gusty winds. This might affect Spain and Portugal with some rain there, and the models generally do take this towards Portugal there in Spain. Might leave some gusty winds or especially some storms and some rain. And this is now a subtropical storm, but it will generally weaken a lot in the next few days. So yeah, and here most importantly is like invest in 97L. So there's an area of more convection there. It's in the southwestern Caribbean. There are the hurricane models and global models. They generally take this through Jamaica or just south of Jamaica and through eastern Cuba. Practically all of them go through eastern Cuba and into the Gulf there. Some are more closer to Florida, some are closer to Louisiana or Alabama, Mississippi, and some try to curve west, but generally to the Gulf there. And the intensity guidance, they have it as a tropical storm, like 48 hour. Then 24 hours, right? Some have it as early as 12 to 24 hours, but others like 36 to 48 hours. There's one model that doesn't even turn this into a tropical storm, but most of the models stay within the tropical storm range. There are two or three showing category 1 in about 84 hours or something, and even one goes to category 4, but that is an outlier. Don't focus on that. The general trend is like just a tropical storm, a weak system. So let's see, there are some GFS members that generally takes this south of Jamaica through Cuba and potentially into the Gulf. And there's some Canadian ensembles that take the south of Jamaica through eastern Cuba and further east into the Gulf. So please be careful. Let's see. So the models there, where is it? Here. So the GFS is already forming this as early as tomorrow into a tropical storm, and it passes like right over Jamaica there, goes for eastern Cuba, as that's still like tropical storm strength. It could be a close to category 1, but that's still like tropical storm strength. Then it shows it going to the Gulf. We will might reach category 1 very shortly, but then as you see it shows it weakening a lot before landfall. So based on the recent indications, this won't be a major problem, but you never know. This forecast can change a lot. So yeah, and it is getting those tropical waves there, and trying to form a tropical storm just north of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola by November 8th in the other area there. So and then it does take this for the Bahamas, between Cuba and Florida, and into the Yucatan there. So yeah, the GFS has some crazy ideas, and there's some other disturbances later, because still has a lot of some heavy rain by November 11th and 12th in the Lesser Antilles, and then it does take all that rain north to the Atlantic, like some fronts. The GFS even forms like a tropical storm very close, like Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago, November 18th, and takes it east in a very strange direction. But that's like 2 weeks out, and it probably won't happen because that's the GFS. So don't mind that. Let's just see like the what's going on now with the system. So there's the European model, does gradually form this like south of Jamaica there, passes through eastern Cuba as probably a tropical storm, and then goes into the Gulf and kind of weakens and gets caught into that front there. So that's the European, and it gets disturbance north of Hispaniola, but it barely even forms it. But it does momentarily get a low pressure there and pass it for the Bahamas, like November 9th and November 10th there. So we might need to watch that. But here, there's the icon too, shows the system forms there. Just does form a tropical storm passing by Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. It's a little bit disorganized on the icon, but it goes there very weak into the Gulf. And the icon also tries to form the new system, like November 9th near the Turks and Caicos, but it takes down into the Caribbean. So yeah, there's the Canadian model too. It forms the system there. It passes the low pressure center just south of Jamaica, but it will affect Jamaica a lot with heavy rain. Then it passes through Cuba as a tropical storm, and goes towards the Gulf there, and might make landfall very weak there in the Gulf, maybe dissipating already. And the next system, it does get a disturbance, but a little bit further south into the islands there, and does try to form a low pressure in the northwestern Caribbean, but kind of dissipates. So the GFS is like the only system that's very developing the next system near the Lesser Antilles, the Greater Antilles. So yeah, there's the Neptune does form the system in Jamaica, and takes it through Cuba there and into the Gulf, but very weak too. So yeah, be aware. I think now the hurricane models have it. So this is the HRF. It does take the system there. It already turns this into a tropical storm passing by Jamaica. 982 is almost a category 1. So the HRF is a little bit stronger, goes there, and it has a major hurricane making landfall in Cuba. This is too strong, I think. These hurricane models are always like too strong, but you never know, because with Milton they showed the strengthening, and it actually happened there in the Gulf. So you never know, but most likely this will be weak. So it passes Cuba there still as a hurricane, and then it kind of weakens before it goes into Florida. So that's the HRF. There's the HEFS A2, goes there, and like goes, it has like a tropical storm or something passing just west of Jamaica, then it strengthens this into a hurricane, and it strengthens this to 947. That's a major hurricane, makes landfall 917 in Cuba, like a category 5, and then goes into the Gulf and gets to category 5 again. I think this model is completely drunk, so don't mind this. All the indications we have only show a tropical storm or like a category 1. So don't I don't want to make people scared, but I'm just showing here because you never know. Sometimes this hurricane models can be right. So let's see. There's the HEFS-B. It does show this passes east of Jamaica there, but will affect Jamaica, of course, with a lot of heavy rain. Then it turns this into a hurricane, and it also turns this into a 943 hurricane, goes into the Gulf as a strong hurricane too. So that's the HEFS-B. So all the hurricane models are showing a hurricane, and all the regular models are showing a tropical storm. So that, I guess we'll see who's right. But if you are there, just be ready for anything. In Jamaica, this is already close to you, so the main threat in Jamaica is really like heavy rainfall and some areas of flash flooding. But in eastern Cuba, this could be a little bit stronger. Most likely just a tropical storm, but as you just saw with the hurricane models, we never know. So just be ready for anything. And yeah, so the rainfall from the European model does have like 179 millimeters southern Jamaica, 143, almost 181 millimeters. So be careful there in Jamaica. Some heavy rainfall and some flooding potential. It does have like close to 143 to 147 millimeters in West End, the Cayman Islands. So be careful, some heavy downpours and flooding there too. Like Georgetown, some areas has like 52 millimeters, and around southern southeastern Cuba, some 124 millimeters. So be aware in those areas. And then it does take this through western Cuba, like 179 millimeters. In some areas, like 102, 99, and has 78 millimeters in Havana. So be careful. Then it does take this into the Gulf, yeah. And even before that happened, the European model is still showing a major surge of moisture, like Georgia and South Carolina. None of the other models are showing. Just the GFS in like Georgia, it has like some 5 inches or something, and the icon also has this. The icon is like almost 8 inches of rain in Georgia in the next 5 days. So this might be very weird, because by Friday, and this might be from the remnants of this storm, but I'm not sure you have to reach all the way there yet. But maybe yes, because the icon is like the storm passing over Cuba and a moisture surge ahead of it into Georgia in some areas there. So might need to watch in Georgia for an event of very heavy rain, just like the European, and some very heavy rain for Georgia, South Carolina on Wednesday, the 6th. And I don't know how I didn't notice this in the severe weather video, but anyways, just be aware there that this is a possibility. The GFS is also kind of showing this, but way less than the other models. But you see that the GFS is also some heavy rain there in Georgia and South Carolina, so be careful. Now, let's see. So the European does have still more than 100, 200 millimeters, parts of Costa Rica and Panama, more than 135 millimeters. So there has already been a lot of heavy rain there. Plus, this heavy rain to come might cause more flooding parts of Costa Rica and Panama and those areas. So be careful there. Shows more like northern Panama as well. Many areas of Costa Rica, especially western, southern Costa Rica. So there might be some flooding still. In Nicaragua, in some areas, some more storms, especially western, southern Nicaragua, Honduras, Santana storms, in El Salvador as well. Guatemala, not as much. Some more like southern Guatemala, some areas, and some storm or two in the Yucatan, and maybe some light showers a day or two in Belize, and some more thunderstorms southwestern Mexico and other parts of eastern Mexico. And we'll talk some more stuff about Mexico on a video today or tomorrow for some other stuff in Mexico. So be aware. And shows more in the eastern Caribbean, like close to 68 millimeters in Guadeloupe, has like 40 or more millimeters in Barbados, more in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, close to 42 millimeters in Tobago. So be aware in those areas, some more waves of moisture there. And if I put this until November 12th, in the next 8 days, it does have like 84 millimeters in Barbados, 98 millimeters in Martinique, like more than 100 millimeters in Guadeloupe, northeastern Caribbean, more than 100 millimeters, Virgin Islands. But this is a lot. This like the next 8 days. But just be aware there of that heavy rain. And yeah, so be aware. But not very heavy, but there'll be like those passing thunderstorms there with periods of heavy rain. They always have like some flash flood advisories and warnings in Barbados when this happens, and more across St. Vincent and the Grenadines in some areas. So make sure to check the links in the description to see the forecast in your area. So yeah, shows those waves of showers and storms there throughout this week. So yeah, be aware in those areas, and shows that heavy rain in Panama and Costa Rica still. So be careful. This might bring more storms throughout eastern Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico and more areas. So be careful. There's the GFS, a little bit different. Does show like 51 million or something. Shows in the Eastern Caribbean too. In Jamaica, the GFS is close to like 147 millimeters more across Jamaica, so there might be some flooding there. Shows close to 100 millimeters in West End, in some odd areas, and there in Georgia. So be aware. It does have this going to Florida, like 100 millimeters, and the GFS is also still some crazy amounts in Panama and Costa Rica, right in the immediate coast of the Pacific, like 100, 200 millimeters, 290 millimeters. So be careful there. And if this happens, if all this rain happens, plus the rain that already happens, there's the chance for like more life-threatening flash flooding in some areas. So please stay safe from flooding and be smart. Stay safe. Shows more in Nicaragua, some 80 millimeters, 60 millimeters, some more storms there. In El Salvador and Honduras. In Guatemala, more southern Guatemala on the Pacific, and a storm or two in another area. A storm or two in the Yucatan or Belize and southern Mexico. So be aware in those areas, in Cuba, the Cayman Islands, and other areas. And the icon shows like alright in the next 5 days, close to 124 millimeters in the Virgin Islands, and more in parts of Puerto Rico, more the northeastern Caribbean. Shows close to 86 millimeters in Barbados until Friday, so be aware. It has a lot in Jamaica, close to like 154 millimeters, so be careful there in Cuba, like Honduras and El Salvador, and Costa Rica and Panama. So be aware in those areas because of this system forming. There might be some rough seas too, but especially on the Pacific, some large waves, parts of the Pacific there. That was the icon that doesn't really have waves, so ignore that. But it does show like near Panama, a little bit larger, and the system forms in the Caribbean there. In Jamaica, the European has like close to 2 meter waves or something. The GFS is like 2.8 meter waves. So be aware. Cayman Islands a little bit more bumpy, near the Gulf Coast, like 2 meters or something. In the Bahamas, the east facing shores of the Bahamas are showing some more waves, and yeah. So this is Tuesday, Wednesday. The system goes to Cuba and the Gulf there. So be aware, and maybe later next week in the Eastern Caribbean, a little bit more wave action. So yeah, be aware. And the tropical storm probabilities from the European model does show those are 20 to 30% near Jamaica and Cuba by November 6th, and it has like November 7th all the way to 70% tropical storm probabilities in Cuba, and all the way to 80 to 90 percent near like that's like 70 to 80% just north of Cuba by November 8th, and then it goes there. The European kind of takes this further south into the southwestern Gulf, and the tropical depression probabilities are nearly at 100% already. So as you can see, this November 6th shows like 100% tropical depression probabilities for Jamaica. It goes there for Cuba and those areas. So be careful. It keeps going and shows the next waves in the Eastern Caribbean there with some probabilities as well. And thus they like to 20 to 30% tropical depression probabilities. The Southern Caribbean again later. So we'll monitor those next waves and be aware there. Just for curiosity, let's see if it has any hurricane probabilities. So November 6th, November 7th, still nothing. November 8th, November 9th, 10th, it does have a small 5% hurricane probability, 5% again, and then it dissipates. So yeah, very small hurricane probabilities. So yeah, be aware those areas. And here, like, let's see if this works. So I'll put this until Friday. It will take a little bit to load, but let's see the tracks from the European model. So there's a lot of support for this. Most tracks some go towards Florida, but most tracks go towards southwestern Gulf. And the European members, like the southwestern Gulf, have a little bit stronger system. But generally a tropical storm or something through Cuba and maybe into Florida or further west into the Gulf. Some even go to Louisiana, Mississippi in some areas. And it does show a member or two near the Lesser Antilles with something but very few support for the next system. It does show something in the Eastern Caribbean but by like November 13th, but that's just one member out of 50 members showing something. There's the GFS. It does form this into Jamaica, Cuba, and generally goes into Florida or Louisiana or other areas, the GFS. But still like a tropical storm, a weak hurricane, maybe just tropical storm. And then it has more support for the system just north of the Greater Antilles and near the Eastern Caribbean, some other lost low pressures. So be aware there, and has some on the Pacific as well. So be aware in those areas. And let's see here. I don't think this will load today, so let's see it here maybe. So like regions, precipitation, like here. So because I showed you the icon, the GFS and the European, but I want to show like some other models too. So this is the Canadian model until next Monday. So does show there in Jamaica a lot, in Cuba close to 100 millimeters, even 150 parts of Jamaica. It does shows a lot in like Georgia, South Carolina, close to like 5 or 6 inches in a spot or two. Northern Florida, it does have those areas there near the Eastern Caribbean, close to like 100 millimeters, the 8-day tour or something. And then does have like still more than 200, 300 millimeters near Western Costa Rica there in Panama. So please be careful there. So the European model does have some wind gusts in Jamaica close to 46 kilometers per hour, 53, and then in the Cayman Islands a little bit gustier too, but just in Cuba like some 84 to 85 kilometers. So be aware in Cuba, and depends a lot on the strength of this as well, because many models have a different. The GFS already has like in Jamaica some 69 to 71 km per gusts. Then it goes there, some high gusts in the Cayman Islands, and then it has already in Cuba like some close to 97, 98 km per gusts already in Cuba. So yeah, be aware. And we never know, because of all many models just show a tropical storm, but with all that ocean heat content available and everything, this might strengthen more, because the wind shear is not that bad. We are in a favorable pair of the medium Julian isolation, and yeah, and there's some wind shear but not much, and you see all that 150 plus ocean heat content there, so we never know. So let's see, like the shear changes a lot. This is the vorticity. You can see the system forming there. The wind shear is kind of unfavorable still near the Eastern Caribbean, Jamaica. Stay safe in summer storms in other areas of the Northern Caribbean.